it's my turn to read again, and I'm going to read a few pages from one of my favourite stories from when I was little. It's Roald Dahl, and it's called The Magic Finger. And I used to love it because I used to imagine that the girl in the story was me. It's not. The farm next to ours is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Gregg. The Greggs have 2 children, both of them boys. Their names are Philip and William. Sometimes I go over to their farm to play with them. I am a girl and I am 8 years old. Philip is also 8 years old. William is 3 years older. He is 10. What? Oh, all right then. He is 11. Last week, something very funny happened to the Gregg family. I'm going to tell you about it as best I can. Now, the one thing that Mr. Gregg and his 2 boys loved to do more than anything else was to go hunting. Every Saturday morning they would take their guns and go off into the woods to look for animals and birds to shoot. Even Philip, who was only 8 years old, had a gun of his own. I can't stand hunting. I can't stand it. It doesn't seem right to me that men and boys should kill animals just for the fun they get out of it. So, I used to try and stop Philip and William from doing it. Every time I went over to their farm, I would do my best to talk them out of it, but they only laughed at me. I even said something about it once to Mr. Gregg, but he just walked on past me as if I wasn't there. Then, one Saturday morning, I saw Philip and William coming out of the woods with their father, and they were carrying a lovely young deer. This made me so cross that I started shouting at them. The boys started laughing and made faces at me. And Mr. Gregg told me to go home and mind my own P's and Q's. Well, that did it. I saw red, and before I was able to stop myself, I did something I never meant to do. I put the magic finger on them all. Oh dear. Oh dear. I even put it on Mrs. Gregg, who wasn't there. I put it on the whole Gregg family. For months I had been telling myself that I would never put the magic finger upon anyone again, not after what happened to my teacher, old Mrs. Winter. Poor old Mrs. Winter. One day we were in class and she was teaching us spelling. "Stand up," she said to me, "and spell cat." "That's an easy one," I said. K-A-T. "You are a stupid little girl," Mrs. Winter said. "I am not a stupid little girl," I cried. "I am a very nice little girl." "Go and stand in the corner," Mrs. Winter said. Then I got cross, and I saw red, and I put the magic finger on Mrs. Winter good and strong, and almost at once, guess what? Whiskers started growing out of her face. They were long, black whiskers, just like the ones you see on a cat, only much bigger. And how fast they grew. Before we had time to think, they were out of her ears. Of course, the whole class started screaming with laughter. And then Mrs. Winter said, "Will you be so kind as to tell me what you find so madly funny, all of you?" And then when she turned round to write something on the blackboard, we saw that she had grown a tail as well. It was a huge, bushy tail. I cannot begin to tell you what happened after that, but if any of you are wondering whether Mrs. Winter is quite all right again, the answer's no, and she never will be. The magic finger is something I have been able to do all my life. I can't tell you just how I do it, because I don't even know myself. But it always happens when I get cross, when I see red. Then I get very, very hot all over, and then the tip of my forefinger of my right hand begins to tingle most terribly. And suddenly a sort of flash comes out of me, a quick flash like something electric. It jumps out and touches the person who has made me cross. And after that, the magic finger is upon him or her, and things begin to happen. Well, the magic finger was now upon the whole of the Gregg family, and there was no taking it off again. I ran home and waited for things to happen. They happened fast. I shall tell you now what those things were. I got the whole story from Philip and William the next morning after it was all over. In the afternoon of the very same day, that I put the magic finger on the Gregg family. Mr. Gregg and Philip and William went out hunting again. This time they were going after wild ducks, so they headed towards the lake. In the first hour, they got 10 birds. In the next hour, they got another 6. "What a day!" cried Mr. Gregg. "This is the best yet." He was beside himself with joy. Just then, 4 more wild ducks flew over their heads. They were flying very low. They were easy to hit. Bang, 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 went the guns. The ducks flew on. "We missed," said Mr. Gregg. "That's funny." Then, to everyone's surprise, the 4 ducks turned around and came flying back to the guns. "Hey," said Mr. Gregg, "what on earth are they doing? They're really asking for it this time." He shot them again. So did the boys. And again, they all missed. Mr. Gregg got very red in the face. "It's the light," he said. "It's getting too dark to see. Let's go home." So they started for home, carrying with them the 16 birds they had shot before. I'm going to pause it there for today, and I'm going to read a little bit more for you in the next few days. So keep looking out. I hope you're okay, and I hope to see you soon at school.